sociology, because on social media there are few people who are revising sociology. So I'm just going to do this short. So we are going to revise on a topic called globalization and social change. So before we get into the video, it is helpful so that you grab a pen or and a paper and or even somewhere to write. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to start by defining what globalization is. After we define what globalization is, we are going to drill on the social theories of globalization. So after we are done with the theories of globalization, we are going to look at the negative and positive effects of globalization. So you jot this down because I am really going to explain and I want you to understand very, very clearly. So another thing is we are going to look on social change. So on social change, we're going to look on the characteristics of what social change. After that, we are going to look at the causes of social change. So after we look at the causes of social change, we are going to look at the theories, and then we are done with the topic. So what I do here is I scrutinize the topic so that you understand and you go and you do your further research. But I'm going to give you the idea that you are going to understand and you are going to tackle your Zimsec or any paper you are going to write easily. So I'm going to start by defining what globalization is. So Giddens in 2009 defined globalization as the fact that we all increasingly live in one world, so that groups and individuals become more inde- in, interdependent. Sorry. So groups and individuals become more interdependent. So what he's saying is, as a world, the whole world is increasingly becoming one. So it's the fact that we are all increasingly live in one world, so that other countries, other individuals, other groups, they become more interdependent. So we are going to look on the theories of globalization. So on the first theory of globalization, which was developed or which was established by a guy, a Japanese writer known as Kenichi Omai. So Kenichi Omai see globalization leading to a borderless what? To a borderless world. So whereby companies are no longer national companies, they are now known as multinational, like OK, Pick and Pay, and other etc. etc. So we also, under the borderless theory, we also have we also talk about global citizens, that people are now buying whatever they want wherever they want in this world. Wherever you want, you can just get. So let me read this out to you. Omai argues that individuals have become global citizens because they can buy cheapest products no matter where in the world. And also, under the borderless theory, Kenichi Omai went on to argue that globalization can improve the economy of poor countries, since they can allow investments. Like the Zimbabwean president has embraced the globalization through the mantra Zimbabwe is open for business. So globalization have allowed countries like China and other countries, I don't know, to come and invest in this country, thereby boosting our economy. As you can see, the Zimbabwean economy is now being what? Boosted. So we have also some another theories which go against saying that globalization is another form of slavery. So under those theories, we have what is called the global theory by Orbine. Orbine talks that globalization had led to increased inequality. So to Orbine, globalization has created divisions, leading to increased inequality. The gap between the rich and the poor has increased. This means that globalization led to exploitation of African countries, hence underdevelopment in Africa. So what Orbine is trying to say is that globalization have led to divisions have led to divisions, that they are rich countries, poor countries. So this leads to exploitation of poor countries like Africa. Okay. So Oberheim, under the global theory, also went on arguing that globalization has led to inevitable European influence. Okay, so this means that globalization have led that only uh, European countries are influencing Africans to a greater extent. So I've talked about the borderless theory. I've talked about the global theory. The borderless theory says that by Kenichi Omai says that globalization have led to the decline of what, of borders, and with the global theory says that globalization have led to the decline of inequality, have led to inequality in societies. Hence, so where there is inequality, there is exploitation of what, poor countries. And they also, under the global theory, have talked about inevitable European influence to Africa. So we also look at Matteo's theory. So Luc Matteo argues that um, Africa is the only one that is influenced or copying European way of life, meaning Africa is colonized indirectly. So Luc Matteo is talking about, in other words, Luc Matteo is talking about neo-colonialism. He's saying that only African countries were the only countries who are being what, who are being influenced, and we are not influencing back. Okay, so this is a new form of colonization. That's what he's saying. In other words, this is neo-colonialism. Let's take for an example. After some countries have gained independence, the World Bank and the IMF started giving loans to those African countries, and then they expected a higher interest. So this led to exploitation of African resources. So they are now taking African resources indirectly, just like what they did in during the time of colonization. So on the last theory on globalization, we look at the cultural genocide. So when you talk about this is the cultural genocide theory. So when we are talking about cultural genocide, we mean that destruction of groups' culture. So groups' culture are now declining. This was um, a theory. The cultural genocide theory was established by Ali Mazraoui. So to Ali Mazraoui, culture has suffered from cultural genocide due to continuous attack of African culture during slavery. So he's saying that globalization have led to death of groups culture due to severe African culture attacks from slavery, colonization, and all sort of things. So we also under Ali Mazraoui, we also see that he argues that there is westernization of African culture. To Ali Mazraoui, places of worship and cultural heritage have turned into mines and plantation. So Ali Mazraoui is saying that those places in here in Africa and other nations have been affected by globalization, because globalization have led to death of those African cultures, African heritage sites, all sort of things. So this means that our culture and our heritage is now no more. So what Ali Mazraoui is saying, that those places and those things have been replaced, especially the places, our heritage places, have been replaced by plantations and mines. That's the cultural genocide theory. So we also look at the Marxist theory. So the Marxists, they argue that capitalism drives globalization since they want to seek new markets. So if you have been doing sociology all this time, you know that the Marxists, they only talk about capitalists in everything. So what they are trying to say is that capitalists are the ones who drives globalization, because they want to seek new markets. Okay, so let me read this out to you. So they want to reach new markets to attract new customer. Marx himself argued that globalization operates in the interest of powerful countries. To Marx, in his view, a new version of exploitation which allows exploitation of the poor of the poor countries. So he's saying that globalization is driven by powerful countries in order for them to exploit to exploit poor countries. So this is all for the theories, and I am on those theories. You get the positive and the negative effects, and I am also going to give you the positive and the negative effects. So please, guys, if you didn't understand, please subscribe to this YouTube channel, and more video are going to come. Stay tuned. Oh yeah.